righty. Good evening, Shocker families. My name is Alicia Newell, and tonight we are kicking off our One Shocker Family Table Talk session number 2, where we are talking about your students' first year at Wichita State. With me tonight, we have a couple guests, and this is where we bring our experts to your living room to talk about the things that you need to know in time to help support your student in their journey. As I said, my name is Alicia, and I have the privilege of serving as the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs. And in my role, I get to be kind of like the mom for students on campus. And so getting to connect and work with students if there's any challenges or issues, and helping to connect them with resources on campus. In addition, I'm an alum of the university, and so being a first generation alum of Wichita State, it gives me great pride of being able to share all that Wichita State has given to me and give that tenfold to your students. So next, I'm going to introduce my partner in crime, who needs no introduction, but Ms. Kim Sandlin, who is the director of our Office of Student Success.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. As Alicia said, I'm Kim Sandlin. I serve as the Director of Student Success. And so I am with you all through this transition into life. We might have parents of brand new students. If that's the case, welcome. If this is your first time joining us I guess we've only had one. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We'll be here all summer, y'all. As same with Alicia, I'm an alum of the university, had a tremendous campus experience here, and get the fun pleasure of working here every day, and giving back again to the university that really helped me find my path through college and beyond. So we're thrilled to be here tonight and to bring experts to you to talk through what that first year looks like for your students. If we do have any parents who have students who are continuing with us, that's perfectly fine. Typically, we'll take, if we have enough time, we'll take any question that you have, regardless of where your student is in the process, whether maybe you're still deciding if Wichita State's the place for you, or maybe you've got somebody getting ready to graduate. Regardless, we're glad that you joined us tonight. So I'll throw it back to you, Alicia, for the next introduction.
All right. And next we have with us Dr. Brett Bruner, who serves as the Assistant Vice President for Student Success. And he'll share a little bit about his role, and then we'll throw it over to Kylie.
Well, good evening. As Alicia said, my name is Brett Bruner, Assistant Vice President for Student Success and Persistence. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here. I get the privilege of working with Kim and her team in the Office of Student Success, as well as our Office of Online and Adult Learning, our First Generation Coordinating Council, and all of our faculty members who teach in our first year seminars program. So I'm excited to share with you a little bit later about what your first year seminar class. Welcome.
And last but not least is our Kylie Johnson, who serves as our Associate Director for our One-Stop Student Service and First Year Advising. So Kylie, take it away.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. I'm so glad you could join us. Like Alicia said, my name is Kylie Johnson, and I serve as the Associate Director of One-Stop Student Services, as well as the lead first-year advisor for incoming freshman students. So also, I will echo what they said. I'm a proud Wichita State alum. It's crazy. They go to school here, and we just stay because we enjoyed our experience. We enjoyed our just overall. And so being able to kind of give back and contribute to students that decide to attend Wichita State is what I love to do. And luckily I fell in love with advising. So Alicia, do you want me to kind of start into kind of the process, or do we in terms of?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, go
perfect.
ahead and talk about the process for One-Stop First Year Advising and what your office does.
Yeah. So I always say my title is services, and the next question I get is what is One Stop? And so we are in the name. We are one place where students can go to get questions answered about multiple areas across campus instead of, you need to go here, need to go here, need to go here. Our office was created to handle all of those kind of general questions of the business side of college in one place. So the idea is all my staff is trained in all of those different areas. So financial aid, student accounts, billing, parking, records and registration, everything, with the idea that, that a lot of times they don't really teach you the business side of college. So the idea was also to transition first time in college freshman students. It's very overwhelming of transitioning to college, not only if you've had a sibling that went through the process or you're first generation, it's overwhelming. And there's a lot of other pieces besides the advising side that can seem a little daunting. So the idea was to kind of create the Office of First Year Advising, is because not only can we help you in terms of your courses, but also just help you understand what it means to be in college. So that's students are advised for their first year in the One Stop Student Services office. So some of your students, depending upon where they're at in the process, what really gets the enrollment process going in that first year is for them to RSVP for orientation. So Kim Shop has reached out. Once a student's fully admitted, the next step is to RSVP for orientation. They select their orientation date, and then it leads them into what we call their enrollment questionnaire. So that enrollment questionnaire is very detailed. It should take a student about 20 to 30 minutes to fill out. So we're asking very specific questions as to, if you took courses in high school for college credit. If so, what are those courses? Where did you take them? Class preferences, days of the week, timeframes, least and favorite classes. And again, very, very detailed. We also ask, depending upon a student's major, if there are sometimes some specific questions that we ask a student. So for example, engineering majors, we're going to ask them, what their comfort level is in math, because based off their degree requirements, we need to know kind of what they've previously taken, what's their comfort level. And so what will happen is those enrollment questionnaire responses go to their assigned first year advisor in One Stop Student Services, and they will review those responses as well as a student's degree curriculum. And we actually understand the hecticness of the spring of a student's senior year with prom and graduation and everything else that kind of goes along with it. The idea is that a student doesn't have to actually physically come in for an appointment to be able to register in classes. So what will happen is, based off their responses and their degree curriculum, we actually build a schedule for the student. At that point, once the schedule is built, they have the opportunity to review that schedule through their MyWSU. They can accept it and they're registered and they're good to go. And the next step is we see them at our own session at orientation, or they can request changes and work with their first year advisor to be able to make any adjustments or tweaks or changes that they want to make to their fall schedule. I think the most important thing is once a student submitted the enrollment question, RSVP for orientation, and the enrollment questionnaire, the thing I can't stress enough is they need to be checking their email, because I would say it's very few and far between that we receive a response on the enrollment questionnaire and we have everything that we need to build a schedule. We understand so many students are taking concurrent classes and we have to verify those courses and or request unofficial ACT score, whatever the scenario is. There's a lot of times some sort of documentation that my first year advisors need to be able to build that schedule. So I think the biggest thing I can stress is making sure that once a student has been admitted, they've RSVP'd for orientation and completed that enrollment questionnaire, is to check that shocker email. That is huge in terms of us getting the documentation that we need to be able to build that initial fall schedule. And like I said, students have the opportunity once that schedule is built to view it. It gives them step-by-step instructions on how to view it through their MyWSU, as well as they can accept it or they can request changes. Students also have the option. One of the last questions on the enrollment questionnaire is I know a lot of times students want to speak with their first year advisor before we build that initial schedule. And so you have the option to select if you would like to speak with your first year advisor to be able, or before we build that initial schedule. So we get that notification and then we reach out to the student accordingly based off how they want to be communicated. So we ask if they'd like to be contacted via email or phone, and then we go from there in terms of setting up that initial appointment for any questions. And I know on the front hand, it is helpful to put a face initially to who their first year advisor is. Again, we're usually that first kind of connection to campus and the first face a student sees when it comes to kind of their support for that first year. And we're proud of the work we do in being able to assist students throughout, not only just when it comes to classes, but also just understanding how to navigate. It can be so overwhelming. And so my advisor's job is to not only help them with the course schedule and the advising piece of it, but also just help them be that go-to person in that first year with questions, concerns, and everything else that goes with transitioning to college, which we know for many people can seem overwhelming. So that's why students, the question we get a lot is, who's first year advisor? What is this? That's the reason why is we want to provide students with a very holistic, consistent experience, no matter what their major is in that first year. So the idea is hopefully we, throughout that first year, have built a solid foundation of understanding college, understanding financial aid, understanding billing, all of that. So the hope is that you've got that solid foundation to then transition to our college advisors in that second year and beyond. But again, we always encourage our students that if they have specific career questions, we want to connect them with faculty as soon as we can. We are not the pros when it comes to what a student can do with their degree program. And so we strongly work with our departments across campus to get students connected for any career-based questions or just understanding what their major is and what they can do with it. So that's briefly kind of the initial process of getting enrolled at Wichita State is, I think, making sure students, once admitted, is RSVP for orientation, completing that enrollment questionnaire, and making sure they're checking their Shocker and or the preferred email that is on file with the university.
There we go. We have a couple questions that came in, and the first one was, how can their students see their schedule of classes?
Mm-hmm. Yes, happy to answer that question. So a lot of time there's a lot of back and forth that happens before that initial schedule is built, because I would say 9.8 times out of 10, there's some sort of documentation that my advisors need from your student to be able to register them in classes, whether that's an unofficial copy of their college transcript, high school transcript, ACT scores, placement exams, whatever the scenario is. So there's a lot of back and forth that happens before we get the documents we need to build the schedule, because we have to have that appropriate documentation to make sure prereqs are met and things like that. So once that schedule is built, they will get an automated email sent to their Shocker email account with step-by-step instructions on how to view that schedule. So it will send them to their MyWSU. They can view not only the courses, but also days of the week, timeframes, instructors. All that information is displayed so they can see. Just below the schedule, then they have the option, like I said, to accept based off what they're seeing. They can accept the schedule and they're registered and good to go, or they can request changes, and they can tell the first year advisor what changes or adjustments they would like to make. And then my advisors will reach out to the student to either to clarify, why am I in this particular course, or, because sometimes it's a little bit confusing, especially we want students to be able to understand their degree requirements. So there's some clarification that happens on the back end. I think another thing to promote your students to do is to look at their major requirements, look at the website for more information as to because some degree programs are very lockstep, meaning there's zero flexibility in terms of the coursework and or general education requirements they are placed in based off the degree requirements. So I think another kind of a piece of advice is encouraging your student to visit their major or the college website or the major that they're pursuing to understand what the degree requirements are. Sometimes that helps make their schedule and what was built based off what they've completed or done previously make a little bit more sense. But it's all, the students can view that schedule all through their MyWSU. And again, they have the option to accept that initial schedule or request changes. And my advisors reach out. A lot of times we'll just eventually call the student. The hard part now is sometimes when we call a student, voicemail's not set up or whatever the scenario is. And so we have some trouble getting a hold to either clarify and or schedule kind of like a follow-up appointment just to have them come in or meet virtually so we can explain the schedule that was built.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something really important in the student has to accept their schedule. And so if they're looking at that, and really my mom advice that I give to parents is, you know your student better than anybody else. And so if you know that they don't best learn at 8 a.m., please do not have them accept an 8 a.m. calculus class, right? Because we want to make sure that we're setting them up for success. And so what does that look like? It's okay for them to have that conversation with their advisor, because that's going to only help them cultivate that relationship so they can have that support. In addition, help them understand, okay, now, one of the things that also came in was AP courses and scores and all of that. And so one thing that I know that advisors typically will ask a student is, did you barely pass that by the grace of whomever, or did you really have a strong foundation for the course content? Because that's going to make a huge difference in how we schedule students in classes, because again, we want to make sure that we're setting them up for success. And so if a student is put into a class, Kylie, that maybe they have taken already somewhere else, they should ask you, or should they assume that we have those transcripts? What's your advice?
Yeah, so I would say the other part too, where it kind of hangs up some things, is sometimes when the students don't actually list that on the enrollment questionnaire. So that's a hard part too, is if it's something is not listed or it's not fully correct on the, because my advisors are going off what is submitted on that enrollment questionnaire when it comes to college coursework they've completed and or AP or IB scores or exams they plan on taking. So if it's not listed, my advisors don't know to look for that or request those scores or verify comfort level in X, Y, and Z. So that's when a student is filling out that enrollment questionnaire, it really needs to be thorough in terms of, and I think there's also some confusion between AP courses for college credit and AP courses for students who plan on taking the AP exams. Those are two different things. And so it can be a little confusing. So my advisors are very proactive, especially when we see that they mark, college credit, yes, AP, and then they also in AP say they haven't taken AP credit. So a lot of times they will reach out and be like, okay, I just want to confirm, did you take AP college or AP courses for college credit through your high school, or did you take the AP exam to potentially receive credit through College Board? So we like to make that clarification. The difficult part, especially with AP and IB scores, is those are not completed a lot of times until students are getting ready to graduate. So we don't get those scores usually until mid to late June. So what my advisors will do, if there is a score that they are waiting on that impacts that first semester in terms of the degree requirements, a lot of times they will wait or wait for those scores. For example, if I have a student that is complete, and engineering is a big one when it comes to math placement, because it is, all of our engineering majors are very specific, degree locked, sequencing, all of that, is we, depending upon what happens is if we notate that a student is taking AP calculus, is we will reach out to them and say, hey, I understand you're taking AP calculus 1 or AB or whatever, except there's 2 exams for AP calculus. And how we will ask them, like, how confident do you truly feel in calculus, based off whether you took it for college credit or you plan on taking the AP exam. So those conversations of comfort also are happening, to where we'll reach out and say, I know you're taking the AP, AB exam for calculus, but do you truly feel like you're going to score high enough to be ready for the Calc 2, for example, or do you want to go ahead and back up and take Calc 1? Because my advisors are also requesting high school transcripts so that we can see a background in different subject areas to really, again, determine if they're truly ready or if we need to have that conversation as to placement in those first initial math and or English, or depending upon the student's degree requirements, what exams they've completed. Does that help? Help answer that question? Did I miss a part?
No, you answered actually all the extra questions that were asked in that. So great job. I do want to throw it over to Kim because she wanted to bring up a new tool that our students have access to, which is a brand new app.
Yes, thank you. If your students have attended orientation, it's possible. We had one last Thursday. Or if they are going to be attending orientation, they'll get a little slip in their packets about this app. We call it Navigate student app. So it's pretty simple name. If your students want to download it, and I say students, right? Students want to download it on their phone. That is an app that really they can navigate, as the name would suggest. They can kind of navigate their experience on campus. And so I know one of the questions I think was, where does a student see their schedule? They can pull up their schedule on the app. They can see if they have any holds on the app. They can schedule an advising appointment with their advisor from the app. They can, favorite their resources on campus, even places to eat. If they want a favorite Chick-fil-A, awesome. Favorite Chick-fil-A, we'd love that. So lots of things that they can do on their phones, because we know they're spending a lot of time on their phones. So we encourage you to do that. Navigate Student is actually, or the student app is really where we're sending students now to schedule advising, like I mentioned, or scheduling any kind of appointment. There's a ton of people who schedule appointments through that process. And so it might be a tutoring appointment through the Shocker Learning Center. It could be something with a specialized advisor. It may not be an academic advisor, but could be in another area that would complement academic advising and the academic feedback process. So I just want to put a plug in there. We've just rolled this out to students, really with a test group, a small group in the spring, and now large for campus-wide for our new students. And so I want to make sure that we talk about that. If you want more information, you can go to wichita.edu/navigate, and you can find the help for students. There's a student quick start guide on there, and it'll walk them through some of the features of the app. I'll say this. If you decide to put this on your phone, we will assume the activity is coming from the student and not you, and they are held to account for that. Right. So it's really, really important to encourage your student to put this on their phone and you not be the one with this on your phone. You should not have this on your phone as a family. It is not a family member. It is not a supporter app. It's really, really individualized for the student. They can, depending on some of the answers they provide to us and some of the things that they reach out with questions on, it'll customize some content for them. And so they should be the ones driving. I can't underscore enough checking email. If I say it once, I'll say it again. If you're getting ready to come to orientation and you're wondering, gee, where do I park? Where do I go? Your student will be sent an email at their Shockers email account with all that information, including a map of where to park. And I just say this because we've had parents a little upset that they didn't know where to park last week, but that information now all goes to your students. So again, we'll talk about this all summer, the importance of having that conversation with your student about expectations on checking email, what that looks like. And really, if you've been the driver, time to take that passenger seat and let them take the wheel to their own success. So just wanted to give a plug for Navigate before we flip it over. It looks like we may be transitioning into first year seminar. So I'll pop it over we'll just go for it, Dr. Bruce.
Right. Well, good evening once again. I'm excited to talk to you about first year seminar. So, as Kim has said, first year seminar is another great transition to support your student as they're navigating transitioning into Wichita State University. Each year, each fall, we have about 50 first year seminars offered, and in the spring, we offer around 30 as well. And so, the first year seminars are a great opportunity for a small class size that really provides a faculty member who's going to be there to introduce your student to new disciplinary or interdisciplinary content. The class might cover something like introverts in society, or me and my place in the world, or the history of rock and roll, or you name it across the board. So your students are being introduced to content that may or may not be related to their academic major, may be an area of interest for them. So we've got interdisciplinary or disciplinary content, but we also have infused student success content in there as well. So while your student is learning about introverts in society, they will also be learning about time management, money management, goal setting, career planning, all of the information literacy and how to use the library for when they write that first big paper in college as well. So they've got this, they've got the student success content that's going to be there while they're also learning about something related to their major or topic area of interest. One of the things that I like to highlight about our first year seminar courses is that they are small class sizes. So the first year seminar is capped at 25 students. And we do that very intentionally. So that way your student gets to know the 24 other students in their class. And they're also getting to know that faculty member who is that expert in the content for our first year seminar classes. In addition, about half of our FYS classes also have a peer, a mentor, a success mentor. And this is a sophomore, junior, or senior who's there in the classes with them throughout all the class periods. They're able to provide some thoughts in terms of their own transitional experiences. They were navigating life as a new student at Wichita State University, or they may share advice in terms of what they wish they would have known or maybe done differently, or what did they do in their role. And so the beauty of the FYS class is it provides that seamless transitional support throughout the entire first semester as your student and the 24 other students in that class are navigating what's it like to be a Wichita State University student, what's it like to be a college student. And so we've got some amazing faculty who take great pride and they really enjoy, all of our faculty really enjoy teaching our students, but our FYS faculty really enjoy teaching first year students and supporting that transition as they're navigating prior to WSU life and their first semester as a Wichita State University student. So as your student is completing the enrollment questionnaire, they're seeing the list of all of our FYS classes that are listed, and they're able to go through and prioritize topic areas that may be of an interest for them. And then as we heard earlier, Kylie and her team are working to help them find a fit for an FYS class that really may align with either what they're wanting to study or maybe an interest area of them.
Perfect. So one of the questions that we have is what's the difference between a college class and a high school class? And should students prepare differently? One of the questions I always ask our students during orientation is, tell me what the difference is between doing homework and actually studying, right? And so can you clarify, is there a big difference, or would it be a really seamless transition for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's a great question that I would encourage you as a family member or supporter to really have that conversation with students in terms of how did they have to study in high school. I think about my own experience many, many years ago. And for some of the classes when I was a high school student, my study skills looked differently than maybe they did in high school and when I got to college, or maybe they didn't, depending upon the subject matter. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that we see and we cover in the FYS class. Almost all of our classes are going to cover how to study and what does studying look like, or how to read a college textbook, because they maybe have never had to read a textbook in high school like they might have to read a textbook when they enroll in a college class. And I think it's kind of normalizing those feelings of, oh wow, I've never had to study like this before. And so I think that's the FYS class will be there to support you. All of our wraparound services are going to be there supported. But I think that's a great conversation for you to have with your student as you're navigating the next few months before those first day of classes, is talking about what are some of those fears or those concerns that they may have from an academic piece, and then knowing that we've got the support resources here at WSU in the classroom and outside of the classroom that's going to be there to support your student as they're navigating this academic transition.
I'll pop in here and just say I'm navigating this a little bit at our house as my kid is doing an AP class for college credit and is going to do another one in his senior year. And Alicia, I know you're dealing with this too. And when you get down to the nitty gritty, it can come down to things like 5-paragraph papers that you wrote in high school are probably not going to cut it in college. No matter, how many credits your student is going to come to college with. A lot of our students come with, some come with associate's degrees, some come with 1 class, some come with 0 classes, some come with somewhere in the middle, right? But if your student has been taking classes and getting college credit from their high school in particular, or are testing with AP or IB exams and things like that, it's important to know that if your student is entering 300, 400 level courses, that the faculty assume that you know how to research and you know how to write. And sometimes that can throw our students off that come to college with a lot of previously earned credit. And so my son was telling me the topics of his, history, papers he was writing. And I was like, okay, that sounds really interesting. And I was asking him about it. And I'm like, okay, but you do realize that, you've got to I've done research, Mom. Okay. Trying to not get in the way, but let him navigate that. And so it's really important that your students understand that AI is sometimes okay and sometimes not okay. And again, their writing and their research, the support that we have, like Dr. Bruner was saying earlier, through our libraries, our librarians, through our wraparound services, through our Shocker Learning Center, through our first year seminars, will help them academically make that transition and help them through that writing process if they are A, testing out of classes, or B, coming with a lot of credits that they earned at their high school. Because let's be honest, as a parent, I'm taking that option because it is financially responsible to take that option. And so I'm taking that option, but understand that those faculty in 300, 400 level classes assume your student knows how to do that. And our students don't like to go to the library. And I don't know that I've met a student who has admitted that they want to go to the library to study and do those things, spend lots of time there, unless they know they're going to be a college professor down the line, or they're going to be, something like that, right? Or going to earn an advanced degree. So it's really important that your students, if they're not comfortable with that, and if that sounds daunting to them, that they connect with us, they connect with their first year seminar teacher, they connect with their success coach, and they connect with the library to make sure that they're at that level that will be expected and assumed by the faculty in those classes. So I just throw that out there because we're kind of trying to navigate that. I'm trying to figure that out with my kid and right now. So some things to think about in addition to to what Dr. Bruner had outlined before.
And Dr. Bruner, if there was one piece of advice that you can give to a first year student, Wichita State being, I like to call us a first generation destination, with 50% of our students roughly being a first generation descent. What advice would you have for those families in supporting and encouraging their students in their first year journey?
I think the number one piece of advice that I would give to both students and parents and families is, when in doubt, ask the question. We have all of the services that are there to help your student. We can do a lot of great things, One, I've not been on a college or university campus yet that can read minds well, though. So if we don't know that your student needs help, or if we don't know that you don't know the answer to this question, you're also trying to figure that out, we can't point you in the right direction. So when in doubt, if your student has questions, they can raise their hand in the Navigate app that Kim was talking about and never even have to go try to find someone in person and ask the question. They can raise their hand there or ask their advisor, ask anyone within their success team. When you have that question and you don't know where to go, you're reaching out to One Shocker Family on Facebook, or the email, or reading the emails and the newsletters that come from Alicia. But when in doubt, ask the question, because we're going to give you the answers, whether you're a student or a family member.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And so many students that we talk to, and we're saying, hey, have you talked to your professor yet? And that's always the number one advice that we all, I think, give to our students of, have you talked with your professor? And a lot of times there's that intimidation factor, or what I like to call, this imposter syndrome of like, well, I can't go talk to him because that's Dr. Bruner, and there's, this differential power. And really, that's what we're here for. Is making sure that we're here to support our students. We want to have those intimate conversations of what are you not understanding? Because if no one can help you understand anything other than your faculty member going to tutoring, you may not be able to explain, hey, on this exam, you missed this content. So this is exactly what you need to focus and study on, right? And so making sure that we're utilizing office hours, we're contacting, taking advantage of supplemental instruction, a lot of different resources like Dr. Bruner talked about, to make sure that we're setting our students up for success. I know that Kylie wanted to talk real quick about proxy access for our families. Yep. And what does that look like, especially when it comes to checking out our students' grades? And so as a mom, I am used to getting online on my phone. I'm checking my students' grades constantly in high school, right? And I'm saying, where is this assignment at? How come you do this on this? And that access looks a little different, right? Once they hit college, to where that is now restricted. And so, Kylie, can you talk to us a little bit about what that process looks like on the advising side with parents and students?
1,000%. And I do want to echo kind of what we've just been talking about when it comes to students asking for help. That is such a huge thing my advisors combat every year. I say it all the time. Like, if my advisors and myself could read minds, solid. We could get it figured out. But a lot of times self-advocacy is very difficult transitioning from high school to college. We all know when you're in high school, those teachers you missed class or you missed an assignment. They're asking, okay, what's going on? A little bit more invasive. That transition to college and being able to learn how to self-advocate. It's the same thing with instructors. They don't know how and why you're struggling until they know. And a lot of times that's very difficult, and it can be very intimidating. And so my advisors are always sharing with students is, I don't care who you reach out to. We always say, whatever that first graded assignment is, whether it's a test, a paper, a group assignment, if it goes left, or if it goes great, awesome. Sounds like we're doing okay. If it goes left, it's at that, oh no, left moment that you need to reach out to someone. I don't care who it is, instructor, whether it's your first year advisor, because the next thing we're going to ask is, have you talked to your instructor? We'll set you up with your success coach. Like, those are all things. But again, if we don't know, we can't get them the resources that they need. And I know it can be overwhelming, but like I said, we work very hard in being that first connection for students to be able to at least know I can go to my first year advisor. I don't know what I'm going for yet, but I know after that grade, that whatever that first assignment was, it's not going good. But that's the hardest part, is transitioning from high school to college and asking for that help. So we try to create a safe space for students to be able to feel comfortable to go to their first year advisor and whatever the scenario may be. So I do want to just kind of add that into what you all were talking about. A question I get a lot is, from parents when it comes to that transition from high school information to the collegiate level. So I will throw out there too, at orientation over the summer when your students attend, they will be attending a session just with their first year advisor, where they are in a lab space to where we walk them through what I call a lot of meat and potatoes information, how to navigate their MyWSU, understand how to search the schedule, understand how to understand their financial aid dashboard, billing information, all of kind of that business side we cover at our first year advising orientation session over the summer. So a lot of that information will be covered. Part of that is what we call parent proxy access. So as a collegiate student, our loyalty is to the student when it comes to their academic and or personal information. So we walk students through the option they can set. The way I kind of explain it to students is this is optional, not required that you do. I think it's important to clarify for the students, it's their choice as to what they want to give access to. But we explain the option, and what we want students to understand is you're in the driver's seat. This is your collegiate career. If you want to give anyone other than yourself access to any information, you have to give them access to that. And I do like to clarify, because there's two different, and we talk about this in our session, is there's two different pieces. So proxy access is allowing someone other than the student access to any academic and or financial aid information. Students have the option. They have to set a parent, guardian, friend, anyone other than them up with that access. And they can pick and choose what types of access they want to give. If it's just financial aid information, great. If they want to give everything, great, ultimately, but they have to complete that proxy access. So at our session, we walk them through how to set that up if they would like to do so. The other side is for student account and billing information. There's a separate access that has to be set up through our student accounts. It's called authorized user. So that can all be done through the student account suite on the My Finances tab of a student's MyWSU. Again, this is all information that we cover at our orientation session. We get a lot of times questions about a payment or a charge or whatever. And because a lot of times, depending upon the scenario, a parent or guardian is assisting their student financially with that initial payment or enrolling in a payment plan or whatever the scenario is. And the way if a student has not set you and or anyone else other than them up as an authorized user, we cannot answer their question. And that's the same thing with proxy. If you were to call the first year advisor about a grade or a score or a place, like if you're not set up as proxy and or authorized user, anyone across campus cannot answer that question. So I think it's important to talk with your student. And again, we reiterate at orientation, this is an option for them. It's not required that they do so, because we want them to also, again, be able to grant the access that they want to grant. So we will cover that at our session at orientation, but that's where a lot of my advisors at this point in time are getting questions or calls from parents or someone about their student schedule or whatever the scenario is. And again, we cannot answer anything or provide them with any information that is not available to the public on the MyWSU website. If it's specific to their student and their scores, that information or that request of information is being sent to their student unless they are set up as proxy and later in this as authorized user when it comes to billing. So I do just kind of want to clarify that. The other part too is a lot of you may see, if your student's admitted and has completed the questionnaire, depending upon where you're at in the enrollment process, is you're going to see what we call a shocker connection hold on your student's account. That hold will not be lifted until they've attended our session at orientation, because we assist them in kind of finalizing and initiating that initial schedule, but we need to teach them how to navigate the MyWSU before that hold is lifted. And so again, once they attend orientation and their schedule is finalized, that shocker connection hold will be released, but we strongly ask that any student that wants to make schedule changes after that point, reach out to their first year advisor, because a lot of times once that hold's released, students will add and drop classes without fully understanding the impact of what class they're dropping and how that could impact their degree sequence or their degree plan in their time at Wichita State. So that's just another thing I'll preface. That shocker connection hold will not be released until their schedule is finalized and they've attended orientation.
can I pop in here real quick? I want to follow that proxy information up with just because a student gives a parent access to see, have these conversations, gives proxy access and all that, you're still not going to see the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month grades of your students. You only see the end of the semester grades from the previous semester, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to be clear, because I think, again, like Alicia, I'm on my phone. I'm trying to break myself of that habit, because I don't want this to be such a transition for my kids. It's hard to do that though. And so if you're used to tracking them week to week and maybe going over with them because you're trying to teach them responsibility and organization and that kind of thing, like, okay, you have 3 missing assignments. What are you going to do this week to get those made up? Whatever. You're not going to see that. And so we talk at orientation through, Alicia says a lot, what's your leverage? How do you hold your students accountable? And have them share that information with you, because either we can't share it necessarily, or what you have access to isn't exactly what you're wanting, right? So the best way to keep that, to know, what those academic records look like, is to have that true, honest conversation with your students, because again, what they think is good and what you think is good, that may not be on the same page. Those conversations need to happen over the course of the summer before your student gets too far down the line. And for many of you, your students are going to thrive and be awesome and not have any issues. I mean, we wouldn't admit them to the university if we did not think that they could succeed. Every student who's admitted has the potential to maximize, their success here. But again, it comes down to asking for help and knowing what those processes are, and, connecting with the people, success teams, advisors, all of the above. The other thing that I'll mention is you'll hear every department on campus say, no problem, contact us. We're going to connect you with the resources. We're going to connect you here, and we'll connect you if we don't know the answers. We will do that, all of us, at whatever point in whatever division, in whatever unit you are or we're in. Universities are complicated organizations, and we do not expect you or your student to understand exactly what happens, at each step of the way. There's a lot to every single step, and I can't answer, and my staff can't answer financial aid questions. We have to connect you with the person. Let me call Laura Lee over in financial aid, or let me call Karen over in financial aid to help you answer this question. She's your person in financial aid. So we're going to work kind of behind the scenes as that success team to support your student as they're making this transition. But, just want to throw all that out there. See, now I went on a tangent on success teams, and we're talking about proxy. So I'm going to stop and turn it back over to you, Elise.
So the one thing that I'll share is, I think everyone on point, but my favorite secret tip, especially for parents, is I will get calls on a daily. How do I do this? Where can I find this? What does this process look like? My go-to is wichita.edu/onestop. And they have a significant knowledge base that will pull up. They've taken significant amount of time implementing questions, our top questions from our students, parents, and families, of what is it that they need, screenshotting it, and they put in step by step on how do you address or respond really to some of these questions. And so when in doubt, that's always a really great place to start, is at wichita.edu/onestop. And then also they're available 365, 24/7. And so if you have a question, you could easily go online, put in a question. If we can't find that for you in the knowledge base, a ticket will be created, and someone from that department will reach out to you and respond. And so I can't think of, a lot of times I'll tell, as a proud alum of Wichita State, I will sing praises and say, the only reason our students will fail is because they fail to ask for help. And I believe that with every fiber of my being, because as Dr. Bruner said, there's so many support systems that truly wrap around our students to give them that holistic support. They simply have to, one, tell us that they need it, and two, once they tell us and we're referring them on campus to, their first year advisor, or maybe their faculty, or maybe counseling, whatever it is, they have to show up. And I think that sometimes is the hard part, is how do we help hold our students accountable in that process, right? And so making sure, for those who come to orientation, I talk a lot about what is our leverage and how are we using our leverage with our students. And when they come home for that first break, for fall break, or maybe Thanksgiving break, are we having them log in to show us, what does your Blackboard look like? And so if you've not already done so, I'm going to do a shameless plug for you to join our newsletter. It's a newsletter that goes out once a month. If you go to wichita.edu/soccer family, we will send a newsletter directly to your mailbox, and we are providing you with tips, with questions to ask your students, the upcoming deadlines, things that are happening around campus. And it's a really great way for, how can you help us help your student be successful? And so everything you need to know in time will be delivered to your mailbox. So if you're interested in staying connected and engaged, please go to our website and sign up for the newsletter. With that, are there any other last tips of advice that you have for our families, or maybe questions that have not come in before we wrap it up for the evening?
Check your email.
All right, say that.
Sorry. Or better yet, have your students check your
it.
email and then inform you of where to park for orientation, please. And all the other things that happen. So, okay, I'm done.
No, I was echoing the same thing, especially if a student, in terms of in the middle of the process of getting that initial schedule built, the most important thing is to make sure they're checking their email. If they haven't heard anything and submitted it a while back, there's probably 3 or 4 emails, and or we've attempted to reach out via phone call as well, to get those appropriate documents that we have to be able to build that initial schedule. I will also just reiterate, I think all of us and campus wide, it can be, especially for I'm not a parent, but I first year students, it can be very overwhelming. It can be very scary. I just want to reiterate that my staff, and I think university wide, is we're here to support your child. We are here to support your student academically, personally, whatever the scenario is. Just that's something that's, I think that's why I stayed and worked for the university, that helped me get through my collegiate career, and just knowing that there are so many people there to help if we know how to help, and if the student reaches out. But I would just want to share, especially as an advisor, my goal is for them to academically succeed, but our first and foremost is that they are in a space, their well-being is the most important. And so that's what we pride ourselves in focusing on. If that transition is not working, let's figure out why and how we can help. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I would just kind of share that with you all as parents, is that's our focus, is taking care of your children. So.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things is, I hear all the time, Wichita State, depending on where the student's coming from, right? Wichita State's really big, and then others is like, it's, my backyard. It's not, it's, it's the right size. But the one thing is that, when we say welcome to the Shocker family, it's not just a slogan. It's not just a, hey, it's truly a family environment once you step foot on campus. And I think that's the one thing that has kept me here for 20 years, is that you have that support and you're not just a number. And, I remember last week we had a family who came to orientation, and the family was back again with their 3rd child. And I remember their first child was a senior. The second one was going into their sophomore year. And I was like, all right, where's baby number 3 at? And, the family from Kansas City, and they were like, wow, how did you remember? And it's we get to have those opportunities to really connect with our families and students in different meaningful ways. And so being able to take advantage of that throughout the process and help our students and really cultivating that relationship, not just with the students, but our families, is what I truly feel sets Wichita State apart and makes us unique. And being able to have those relationships. And so through programs like this, we have Parent Family Weekend coming in October, a lot of things just to make sure that we're staying connected and engaged with you. So another shameless plug. If your student is joining the Honors College, this is one of my favorite sessions because the Dean of our Honors College, Dean Kimberly Ingberg, will join us and her staff to talk about what your student can expect as an honors student in the Cohen's Honors College. And what are some of the unique things that they have planned for Shocker Shocker, Kim, help me out. Shockfest. It's a new program. Shockfest, which will happen the weekend prior to classes starting. And so this is a great time for our honors families to come and join our honors college faculty with very specific programming. They do an amazing job. And so that is coming up on June 18th. And then following that, June 25th, we have Your Shocker Health, where we talk about health and wellness on campus and things that your students need to do prior to coming to the university if they're moving into housing. And so a lot of things happening. If you go to wichita.edu/family, you can see a complete listing of all of our upcoming table talks there. With that said, any other last pieces of advice? We got check your email, reach out for help, and don't be afraid. If you see us on campus, stop us and say, hey. I think that's probably one of my favorite things. My daughter, she really dislikes it when we're at Target and someone's like, hey, Miss Alicia. But really, we want to connect with you. So if you see any of us on campus or out in the community, don't be afraid to stop us, say hi. We love meeting our Shocker families, and we really look forward to connecting with you soon on campus. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Wait. Time out, Alicia, before you disconnect us. Wait. Are you going to draw a winner? Do we have a winner?
I do. We will draw a winner and we will post it online.
There you go.
Yes.
No.
And so we actually, thank you for reminding me, Kim.
Yes.
We will draw a winner tonight and we will post it on our social media. Tonight's giveaway is really fun. Thanks to our student success department. They ordered us Shocker Family tumblers, which are great to showcase your Shocker pride both at home and in the office. And so this will be coming to one of you lucky families joining us. And then also we have the Shocker banner that you will be able to display outside your home to showcase your Shocker pride in your neighborhood. So please continue to follow us online. We'll be posting that tomorrow of who our winners are, and look forward to some goodies in your mailbox. Thanks for joining us and have a great evening, everyone.